Welcome to the Best of Bumper to Bumper podcast. I'm Justin Gard. If you're looking for the entire podcast, it's available on this very same channel. But for those just looking for the gist, this is the podcast for you. Thanks for finding us and subscribing to us on your iHeartRadio app. We've got Dr. Dan's Inbox coming up, as well as a horrible story out of the state of Georgia that Dan spent some time on, and a story that we're going to hear an awful lot about. But to begin, a reunion of sorts with an old friend, a guy we used to call .com Tom Pelissero of the NFL Network.
Tom Pelissero is on the Whiting Clinic LASIK and Cataract Hotline now. Pretty well-known name at this point. Turned into a big shot National Football League reporter, NFL.com. I think he has some serious satellite duties as well, and he is indeed kind enough to join us. As we welcome you back to the program, Guardsy, we were trying to figure out when the last time would have been that you were on, and he thinks it was when you're like 9 years old. Is that true?
I did try to triangulate that as well. I believe the last time I was on, we were talking about what it was going to be like for Brett Favre coming back to Lambeau Field for the first time as a Viking.
Wow.
And I remember doing that interview standing outside my apartment building in Green Bay. That feels like a few lifetimes ago, as it does when I think back to the fact that my first job at KFAN started 19 years ago this month running promotions over there.
Wow, that long. Now I do really feel old. I mean, that's unbelievable. And by the way, who did give you the .com Tom moniker? Was that self-assigned? Did somebody else come up with that, or did it just sort of evolve?
If I remember the story correctly, there had been a predecessor who was named .com Dave. And so they just appropriated the same name to me, and it actually flowed much better. It was some combination of Frank Todick and Jeremy Stender and Dave Sheets, everybody who I was brought up circa 01, 03 when I was coming through there. I don't remember who actually did it, but, it was just .com Dave, take a few letters off the nameplate and slide in .com Tom.
Well, it's good to hear your voice. I hope we can do this every once in a while. If we ever actually get to the point where there's an actual season, we know that the schedule will be released officially later this evening, and I assume you're going to be part of that NFL.com coverage, NFL Network coverage, I should say, as well. This is delayed. Originally, was the announcement was going to be a couple weeks ago? Is that correct?
No, this is a year where they actually decided, even before the pandemic, that they were going to make the schedule announcement later, which actually makes a lot of sense because in the past, they've done it a week or two before the draft. Well, you don't know what rookie quarterback is going to what team. You don't know any draft day trades that might completely change the games you want to make high profile. So this was always the week that they were aiming for. It just now happens to be that we are in the midst of a global health situation that nobody could have thought we would be in about 4 months ago.
Can you shed any light on what you know? There's been some leakage apparently regarding the Vikings schedule, and a couple people I think reporting that it looks like the Vikings will play the Saints on Christmas, which I think is a Friday this year in New Orleans. Can you confirm or deny that, or give us any other morsels that very, very hungry Vikings fans are waiting for?
We received our annual memo this morning that prior to the NFL Network show kicking off at 7 p.m. Central, we are not allowed to comment or speculate publicly on the schedule. I would just tell you, though, and I did see the multiple reports on a potential Vikings-Saints Christmas Day matchup, and my only thought was, that might be the one that ends my marriage. There's a 5- and 3-year-old girl around here that have other plans that day, and a Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Orleans may not go over well in my household.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing, of course, is we knew we didn't know dates, but we already kind of knew the schedule, right? We knew who the Vikings were going to play. Do you agree with the notion that, I guess you could say, especially if some of these go into prime time, the assumption is maybe they become even more difficult? I don't know if that's true if they're on the road. This is a meat grinder of a schedule for a team that presumably still thinks it's got a shot to kind of make a run here.
The Vikings are in a really unique position in that, you're certainly not going to find anybody who says that they're into a rebuild mode, but you look at how substantially different a team that won a playoff game last year in New Orleans is, especially sweet side of the ball. I mean, Mike Zimmer's had the same core group for a lot of years, often returning 9 or 10 starters. And this year, they're going to be playing with some really young guys at the cornerback position. They've still got some questions in terms of, filling the void of Everson Griffin's likely departure. Offensively, you've got some changes. Savon Diggs out, obviously, Justin Jefferson coming in. But you have roughly the same nucleus. Absolutely, they all believe that they should be a really good team coming into this season. I think it's difficult to sit here in May and start looking at necessarily the schedule because, you see games against teams like the Titans. Well, the Titans were a 9-7 team that just happened to make an unbelievable run to the AFC title game. I mean, which team are they going to be this season? Do you see a bounce-back Falcons team? We have no idea what the Panthers are going to look like with Matt Rule taking over there. But absolutely, I mean, you always kind of start with the quarterbacks. I think that's how a lot of coaches look at it too. And, when you go down the list of having to face Drew Brees and a Tom Brady and a Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, all those guys on the road, of course, facing Aaron Rodgers a couple of times. Those are some difficult games. There's no question on the road, on paper, as we sit here 4 months out from the season.
The draft, the Vikings got a lot of good letter grades, locally, regionally, and nationally as well, as much as those mean at this point, which, of course, we can debate forever. I looked at it as that the team, this is based on the needs you mentioned and the losses, especially to the defense and certainly wide receiver, that if they're going to be able to make a run like they obviously hope and that they still intend, this is going to have to be a home run draft, that there's enough openings that even in a year where you're not going to have any off-season stuff, they're going to have to plug in a lot of people really quick, and they're going to have to be really good really quick. Do you agree?
Well, absolutely, and that's where, having 15 picks, I believe, is what they ended up actually making in the draft, and they had more than that. I mean, they already got, 12 picks in the 2021 draft? I've never seen anybody accumulate picks like Rick Spielman did both before and during the course of that draft. But, the good news for the Vikings is that even though their efforts to trade up largely did not work out, and they were trying to trade up within the first round, they were trying to trade up in the second round, they were trying to trade up back into the second round. This was an odd year, and I'm sure that the pandemic played a role in that and just the way that changed the scouting process. There were not a lot of teams urgently trying to move back in the draft. But if you were drawing it up and say Justin Jefferson is going to be sitting there at 22, even though you didn't go up and get a tackle, that's some pretty good value. I mean, I know that Spielman is close with Howie Roseman from the Eagles. When Howie takes Jalen Reagor and not Jefferson, there have to be a couple of fist pumps that occurs because Jefferson's such a highly productive player, over 100 catches last season. Mostly operates out of the slot, but that's the kind of guy the Vikings needed. And then I know they had done a ton of homework on Jeff Gladney because there were some questions about him from a character perspective early in his career. Kind of sounds like he turned things around. And then Ezra Cleveland was another guy who slid down. So in the first 3 picks, we always talk about the best player available and you let the board come to you. Well, Vikings have a habit of being able to fill needs even with their high picks, and the fact they go receiver, corner, tackle. You're 100% right, Dan. Those guys are going to have to step in. Cameron Dantzler, the third-round pick, another corner, is probably going to have to step in too. I mean, I can already imagine the questions and Mike Zimmer's reaction to them when we get to September and October and a rookie cornerback may have made a mistake in a game. I mean, he's had some veterans there for a while now. They're always developing guys at that position, but it is going to be a different group on the back end, and they hope, based on the way Xavier Rhodes struggled last season, Kenzie Alexander took a little bit of a step back. They're hoping that this is ultimately, if not in week 1, then by week 17, this is going to be an improved group.
How do you survey the division fundamentally differently at all than what you did before the draft? Again, as difficult as it is to know how players are going to develop, and even players who are well liked are going to what they're going to turn into. Did anything change about the way you looked at the pecking order in the division on the basis of how the draft played out?
Well, I think if you even go back further, Dan, to before free agency, and I think that when the Bears make the Nick Foles trade, that changes the dynamic with a team that, 2 years ago, they're winning the division. Last season, they regressed. Everybody focuses on Mitch Trubisky, but the team as a whole regressed. Now they're going to have a quarterback competition. They were still in veteran. They gave Jimmy Graham a bunch of money. They gave Robert Quinn a bunch of money. those are moves you make if you think you're not the team at 7-9 that's going to be, scraping just to try to make the playoffs. I think the Lions draft, that's one thing that got a little bit undersold, in my opinion, is, they draft Jeff Okudah, the corner out of Ohio State, at number 3 overall. But then, they clearly had a plan. They needed offensive playmakers. They get DeAndre Swift, the runner from Georgia. They take the wide receiver from Cephas from Wisconsin in the 5th round. They took another running back in the 5th. Those are all guys they thought they needed. They drafted a couple of guards. And then pass rusher Julian Okwara, who a lot of people thought was a first-round talent. There were questions about the guy. He ends up going in the 3rd. So they did some work that probably isn't high profile, but I think is probably going to show up for them in a really important season for Matt Patricia and company. And then, with the Packers, I don't know that it changes the fabric or the viewpoint on the division, but it certainly raises questions just about the dynamics of how all this is going to play out. I mean, you go back a year ago to the spring, and all anyone wanted to talk about was, how are Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur going to get along? How is Rodgers going to operate in a system where he may not have as full of control, and he's only got 1 or 2 checks that he can make at the line? And what happened? LaFleur found a way to work with them. I've known Matt for a number of years now. He finds ways to work with people. He's a very even-keeled type of a guy. They meshed a lot of things that they did on offense to the way that Rodgers wanted to play. Now the questions are going to be, how are Rodgers and LaFleur get along? Can they, after they draft Jordan Love, is he going to hold it against him? Is Rodgers going to want to be getting traded in a year? All those things that keep being written. Well, again, if they go out and play well, it's not going to matter in the short term. We all know how things played out with Brett Favre. They were drafted 15 years apart, Rodgers and Love. It was a similar situation, similar ages. It took 3 years of Rodgers mostly being on the bench before they eventually went to him and then ultimately moved on from Favre. Every scout I talked to about Jordan Love going into the draft said the same thing, which was this guy needs to sit for a year or 2 years. He is not going to step in, light it up in camp, and just suddenly everybody's going to be questioning whether or not they should move on shorter, in the shorter term than the longer term with Rodgers. It's just a matter of what is the interpersonal dynamic, what does Rodgers think? I think that David Bakhtiari, when he was on our the draft-a-thon, nailed it right after the pick. He said, I think that, Rodgers, and I'm paraphrasing here, is going to come in with a fire under his ass and want to go out there and show everybody he's still that same quarterback. However this plays out 2-3 years down the line, I tend to think the same thing. This is not going to be suddenly the locker room implodes. Rodgers has every bit of motivation to show that he's still on top of his game. Now, can those receivers, especially the young guys, come along? They brought in Devin Funchess. Can they patch that group around Devontae Adams together well enough? That's the stuff that they've got to figure out from a development standpoint as they head into 2020.
We got time issues, so and I got a million of other questions, but we'll try to do it down the road because there's going to be plenty of time to catch up. How annoying was it back in the day when you were a teenager to have to sit and wait for me in that little broadcast room at Target Center to write whatever I was going to write, and to agonize and to milk, over an hour after hour. I can't get it. I got writer's block, and you just had to sit there and smile and wait because I wasn't capable of whatever I wrote, putting it in place where that it could actually be online. When you look back on that, did it scar you?
No, that was the 2004 Western Conference Finals, I believe. The Timberwolves and the Lakers.
That's right.
You had gotten back into writing, and I mean, you were somebody, and this is going to come off sappy. Don't take this the wrong way, but you were a guy I grew up watching. I'm 22 years old, 23 years old, and watching you. Like, I grew up reading the Star Tribune, reading your columns. I was fascinated, and then you'd sit there for 4 hours after the game, and I'd say, "What in the hell is he doing?" But it was a fabulously formative experience. You know what? The other thing, I don't know if we got 2 minutes here, Dan.
Well, we're fine. It's the question is your schedule. I hear because you got some kid issues that it might evolve here pretty quickly.
It's the last day, or one of the last days with the nanny here. She's off at 3:30, but I have not gotten the frantic text from my wife that she's on a conference call.
All right.
So I think we're okay. But so you bring up that was 2004 in those Western Conference Finals. Right. I've been watching The Last Dance. I think as a lot of people have on ESPN. I'm still only like 2 episodes into it because I've got kids and other things to do. But it brought to mind a story from those same finals that I don't know that I've ever told on air or in any other forum. But you remember one of the guys way down the Lakers bench during the 04 on that 04 team was Horace Grant, who had been, of course, a core part of those Bulls teams. So you're talking about that little booth on the Skyway level outside of Target Center where, KFAN had their broadcast booth and you do shows. Well, that was also connected to the parking garages. So one night, and I think it was after we wrapped up, I had to get the laptop from you. That's why I was waiting around for, right?
That's true.
I'm leaving with the laptop, and this is, 2 hours, whatever, after the game. So I'm walking toward the parking garage. And I turn a corner, and standing in the Skyway is Horace Grant. He's with a friend. He comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, I'm wearing a brand-new suit. It cost, I remember what he said, $5,000. I'm wearing a brand-new suit. It's pouring rain out. Can you give me a ride?" So I'm like, "Sure, Horace Grant. I'll give you a ride to your hotel." So we're walking, and as we're walking, I'm being like, "Man, watch you playing with the Bulls and everything." And in the back of my head, I'm remembering 2 weeks before my car, which was like a 94 Toyota Corolla, had been hit while parked on the side of a road in St. Paul. The entire driver's side of the car is dented in. So I can't even get in through the driver's side door. But I just play it cool the entire way. So we're finally coming up on the car, and I go, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry, but not only is this car very small, but there's some damage to it." And he's like, "Hey, man, you should have seen where I grew up. It's totally cool." So I unlock the passenger side door, crawl across into the driver's seat. His friend gets in the front seat next to me. Horace gets in the back. He's damn near 7 feet tall now. So I look back, and he has his right leg at basically a 90-degree angle. He is fully lying down with one leg up in the air, the other leg like curled underneath the passenger seat. I'm looking at him in the rearview mirror, and I'm just thinking at this point, I just got to get him out of this vehicle before something bad happens. So we leave, and I quickly realize he has no idea where the hotel is. So we proceed to drive around in a driving rainstorm for a half hour with a bent-over Horace Grant trying to look out the windows of the Toyota Corolla to identify by sight his hotel. We finally get to a stoplight, again, after driving around for 30 minutes, and he goes, "Hey, man, it's cool. It's right there. I see it. I'm going to make a run for it." Shakes my hand. Open my hand. There's a $100 bill in my hand.
Whoa.
Horace goes running out. And I look and realize he was staying in the hotel that is connected by a skyway to the Target Center. Directly across the street. I believe it's the Lowe's Hotel now. So that's the Horace Grant story.
That's a hell of a story. That's a good one, and never apparently uttered before on air.
Meanwhile, you were probably wondering why your story hadn't been posted yet.
Yeah, I was
at
bitter.
KFAN.com.
I was texting you like, "Tom, how come it's not?
Get the story up.
It's not posted yet." That's a classic. That's brilliant.
I couldn't break any schedule news for you, but I hope I made up for it right there.
I think you did. It's going to be a tough hill to climb, quite frankly. After that one, that's a hell of an anecdote. You done good. NFL Network, NFL.com, Sirius XM, NFL. Still one of us, though. Good to have you back. We appreciate the time, and we'll definitely try to keep in touch. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it, Dan.
11 years it had been since .com Tom had graced the fan airwaves. It was a special time when we all worked together. The 2002, 2003, 2004. Just a bunch of kids. Now we're all old men. We've got a bunch of kids of our own, so it was fun to go down memory lane a little bit with Tom Pelissero, and that Horace Grant story was unbelievable. I mentioned it's Thursday. It's May 7th. That means Dr. Dan's Inbox.
It's time for Dr. Dan's Inbox.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day.
I undersold how good of a week it's going to be. I mean, just
be careful.
No,
you're going to raise expectations to 41 donut level.
I put the kind of the order in during this last break because they come in fast and furious, especially as everybody has the deadline, of 4:30. Because it's every Thursday, it's at 4:30. Thank you, Wedding Day Diamonds, for helping out on Dr. Dan's Inbox. Wedding Day Diamonds. We have 2 letters that I need to read back to back here, Dan. Dear Dr. Dan, Since a rolling stone gathers no moss, I casually completed another triathlon the other day. Afterward, I was listening to Howard Stern during yet another high-intensity workout on my Peloton when I heard Sir Paul McCartney saying the band he played in 40 years ago is better than our still intact, sold-out stadium, standing room only, good luck getting a ticket to our yearly tour band. Can you believe the audacity? It's obvious that he doesn't have a leg to stand on and is living in some sort of psychedelic 1960s fantasy world. Unlike the fuselage of an airplane, McCartney was worse with wings. Do you think he's senile or simply longing for the days of yesterday? That's with a capital Y. Sincerely, M. Jagger. To respond to M. Jagger, Dear Dr. Dan, during my recent interview with H. Stern, which was remarkable not only for its content, because at combined 143 years, neither of us has a gray hair on our head. The host poked and prodded me, trying to get me to badmouth an English band, which I believe is called the Rotating Rocks, Tumbling Tablets, or something of that nature. I can't really recall. Anyhow, since my former band, the Beatles, has sold 600 million albums worldwide, which is 3 times as many as our so-called competitor, isn't it clear the public has already decided which of our bands is better? P. McCartney.
God. God, those are good. Right
Both of them are brilliant.
Right out of the chute.
Yeah.
By the same person?
Same person.
I was going to say, it would be even
yeah.
more impressive if it was 2 different people and you put them together. Yeah, it was. It made for some interesting content a couple of days ago once I came upon a distillation of what very clearly was a concerted effort by H. Stern to try to stir it up. He definitely led the witness in trying to get Paul McCartney to take pot shots at P. McCartney, to take pot shots at M. Jagger and the Rolling Stones. And what it ended up devolving into on air, and I guess this isn't surprising, is that people turn it into, well, who's a better musician? McCartney plays several instruments. Mick kind of tries to play guitar, otherwise he's vocalist guy. Look at the McCartney catalog. Yeah, okay, the Richards Jagger catalog's nice, but come on. And I didn't really intend it to go there. I was just so refreshed by, one of the rips for Dr. Dan over the years is an exasperation when mediocre to just okay players trash talk each other, and we're supposed to be fascinated with it, or they have like 2.5 good games, and they start trash talking. I just thought it was wonderful that I'm going, well, if anybody can get away with whatever this was, whether it was playful or otherwise, this is at the highest. This is the Clash of the Titans, as far as I'm concerned. You're talking about the Beatles and the Stones. And so to me, that's what made it kind of cool. I wanted more of it. And I wish there would be more of it. And maybe there will be another. Maybe the next time M. Jagger is on with H. Stern, it will take that turn as well. Although M. Jagger did get the shot in, as was kind of played out in that letter, they're intact. Oh, speaking of that, I had an email the day we got into this subject mocking the Stones' appearance during the benefit concert. I don't remember what it was technically called.
Was it the iHeartRadio benefit concert?
No, this was a different one.
Okay.
And this one was televised. It was not live, but it was televised, and it had a bunch of huge names. And he said that he found their appearance, it was everybody's at home, each of them in their own locations, and that he thought that the Stones were revealed as they're well over they're past their prime. They were embarrassing compared to a lot of the other people. Maybe it's my own biases entering in here. I thought they were one of the best things all night by far, and I thought they sounded fine. I thought they sounded exactly how the Stones tend to sound. Now, everything's stripped down for all the obvious reasons. And, the bit with Charlie Watts was he was basically playing air drums in his case. And maybe some people were bothered by that. But I saw a decent amount of that show. I thought it was the highlight of the entire program. And it might be, for me, still the revelation that they are still performing. And as I've said before, they're the one group that I don't feel embarrassed for. Because there are a lot of great groups that you go, oh, man, you don't need my approval, but just stop doing it. Just stop. But I never feel that way with them. Every time I feel prepared that I'm going to have to take that step, with them I don't, because I still think they're capable of pulling it off.
It's time for Dr. Dan's Inbox.
Dear Dr. Dan, pretty quiet around here lately. Lots of time to myself, not complaining, trust me. What'd I do yesterday? Didn't throw 4 picks, LOL. Not sure about today. Feeling a little lazy and unmotivated. Happy not to be watching film, I'll tell you that. Anyway, just checking in. Got to go eat some ice cream. Lates. Oh, if you happen to see M. Martz, tell him I said bleep off. LMAO. Later, bro. Jay Cutler. Now that people know who it is, I got to read that again because there's so many good subtleties in there.
Read it again.
Dear Dr. Dan, pretty quiet around here lately. Lots of time to myself, not complaining, trust me. What'd I do yesterday? Didn't throw 4 picks, LOL. Not sure about today, feeling a little lazy and unmotivated. Happy to not be watching film, I'll tell you that. Ha ha. Anyway, just checking in. Gonna go eat some ice cream. Lates. Oh, if you happen to talk to him, tell M. Martz I say bleep him. LMAO. Later, bro. Jay Cutler.
God, that's really good. By the way, a Mickaholic says Jagger plays many instruments. Harmonica master, several different guitars, maracas, and tambourine. So take that, Paul McCartney. Take that, P. McCartney. There's an art to playing the maracas effectively. You don't just play the maracas. You just don't pick up the maracas and play them.
No.
It ain't that simple. Some people think it is.
You could try.
You could try.
Yeah.
You're going to be exposed as a charlatan is what you're going to be exposed as. It's interesting Jay Cutler emails because
I want to talk about him in the top 5, too. There's more details coming out on this whole thing.
Well, here's what's interesting about the details coming out. When his now, I guess, or soon-to-be ex-wife, what's her first name?
Kristen Cavallari.
Kristen Cavallari announced that they were going to get a divorce.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last thing she pleaded for? She pleaded for, let us have our privacy.
Yeah.
Since then, there have been a never-ending series of verbal atrocities committed on Jay Cutler from so-called unnamed sources that everybody knows is his ex-wife. The same one who said, please, let's just allow us to do this in privacy and in peace. We just want to go away quietly. When everything that's happened since would indicate the exact opposite of that. So as much of a savager of Jay Cut as I have been as Dr. Dan, I'm almost, if she's not careful, she's going to turn him into a sympathetic character because clearly her and her bobos are all in on mocking him, ripping him, making him look bad at a point where they basically she had said, I don't want to have anything to do with this. I just want to move on with the rest of my life. While he has so far not attempted to fight back, and that might actually be, other than this email, his best strategy.
It's time for Dr. Dan's
It's going to be in the top 5, too, huh?
Yeah, because I think the more Kristen Cavallari leaks, the better Jay Cutler looks.
Well, that's the point. Yeah, exactly.
But not even just that she's leaking, but the things she is leaking.
Oh, the content.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you saw the headline, lazy and unmotivated.
Yeah.
But there's more to it. There's more to that.
More to the lazy and unmotivated?
What she deems lazy and unmotivated.
How she defines it.
Yes.
Okay.
That's where I think people are,
because
they're reading the fine print.
As a player, he was lazy and unmotivated. I mean, that's...
Except when he was yelling at Mike Tice.
The truth is not controversial. I mean, he was a lazy player who had great talent, who didn't work hard enough to learn how to read defenses, and just decided, I'm going to make that throw anyway because I got that arm, and it was annoying. But anyway, I get your point.
It's time for Dr. Dan's Inbox.
Oh, we get letters.
This is a good one, too.
We get your letters every
Very
day.
topical. Dear Dr. Dan, I noticed you did a Zoom meeting this week. I'd like to take a moment to give you my initial ratings of all the rooms in your Zoom meeting and give you an opportunity to respond before I tweet them out. For D. Barrero, the background gives the impression of someone who appreciates literature. It also screams Ron Burgundy. I have many leather-bound books and my house smells of rich mahogany. Nice globe. Have you tracked down where in the world El Nanny is? 2 words, hat rack, 7 out of 10. Jay Guard, your room is a blank whiteboard. Is that the impression you want to give to the world? Aren't you supposed to be teaching your kids for distance learning? Hopefully their mother is in charge. At least have a math problem or two on the board to make it look like you tried. 4 out of 10. L. Fisher. What is up with the whiteboards? Having said that, you can tell this person works in television. The intelligent lighting decision provides an ethereal glow that distracts the eyes away from the minimalist background. 5 out of 10. Sincerely, R. Rater.
That's pretty well done. That's another classic. You're exactly right.
Got another R. Rater one real quickly.
Okay.
I was going to walk off on this one, but dear Dr. Dan, do you think the Churchill room is my best chance to be featured on the Twitter account Room Raider G. Mason?
Yeah, I would think
we'll never get to the Churchill room now.
You know what occurs to me, too?
What's that?
On-air production meeting for Enough Said. If we end up doing it, if that was a test run, for example, we end up doing it at our various homes or she's at work and we're wherever we are, isn't our cover kind of blown? That because it will be during the day, which means the sunlight will indicate, well, something's up here. What I thought this show was on. I mean, we want to kind of pretend people think the show is live, even though everybody knows that it's not. But isn't it even going to be harder to get that nighttime vibe? Because in the studio, it's still nighttime. It feels like nighttime.
Yeah.
Even though we're taping it at noon, now we're going to have the sun coming in, and it's going to be too bizarre.
I think we could dress it up a little bit.
No, we might be able to.
We may have to have some other lights and things like that.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick. If we do it again, I think we're going to pick another room.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Although I like the books. But there's another room where we could actually, where there are leather-bound volumes. There was really no leather-bound in that one, but it's a great line. It was well done. God, that was a good letter.
Must be nice to have room options.
Oh, don't even start.
It's time
Don't even
for
start.
Dr. Dan's
My rooms are all under construction.
You Dinah boy.
I can't do it from my house.
Yeah. Well, that's another issue.
I'd have to come in here. Dear Dr. Dan.
Yeah.
This COVID-19 winter has really upped the stress level for me at work. Yesterday, an email about my home relocation search accidentally got sent to an email address my coworker has access to. This was right after I was denigrated by my colleague for my work on my daily sports news segment that we do around 5 o'clock. I'm sorry. There's no live sports going on. What am I supposed to do? Dr. Dan, I think my coworker's noticing that I'm checked out of this job until I get the all clear to move to my new exotic golf community home. How can I smooth things over with my coworker so that everything is amicable when I leave for the new gig in the craft beer haven that is Omaha, Nebraska? Sincerely, Jay Gard. I've been featured 4 or 5 times in this inbox.
Did you get this one? Dear Dr. Dan, go smoke your weed and leave the music to me. B. Oak.
I did not get that one.
B. Oak. I like that one.
Did I get any emails for new houses today? To booth@KFAN.com, the Bradshaw and Bryan
that
inbox.
place yesterday looked pretty nice. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I mean for $8.99.
Right on the water. Yeah, well, no,
work.
that ain't a starter's place by any means.
No.
But it's right on the water.
Yeah.
And you're right there.
It sounded really nice.
Second, not real high, but second floor high up enough, off of from the rabble.
I don't really like the heights. I don't need the heights, I can do second floor. That's fine.
Yeah, second's good enough.
Yeah. Get off the ground a
as
little bit.
long as you're off the ground, sure.
Yeah, get off the ground a little bit.
That's it. Just you know what you do instead for your Florida excursion? Take Coomdog up on his He's given us an open invitation, and I think he actually means it.
Unlike Mace.
Yes, that's a good comparison point. That he'd say, "Hey, come to my place in Florida." I can't remember, where is he in Florida?
Clearwater.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful place.
It's time for Dr. Dan's Inbox.
Letters. Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day.
Oh, look at this. Tweeter Josh. I can help get you some blackout curtains for your TV show.
There you go.
There's your answer. Case closed.
Enough said.
Enough said. I like it.
We'll run it by Lori and she'll shoot it down.
Of course she will. She
Yeah.
always does.
Dear Dr. Dan, a friend of mine was listening to the Bumper to Bumper radio program yesterday. He said that some person named L. Mondello guy emailed in and basically compared himself and OOU Hollywood actor guy and their contributions to this segment to me playing basketball. That's interesting. So some overweight schlub sitting at a computer amusing himself by sending emails at the pace of James Harden field goal attempts who hasn't written a good joke since the first Obama administration, and a guy still trying to ride the wave of a part in the subpar Will Ferrell basketball movie are the equivalent of one of the greatest athletes in history. Apparently, El Mondello guy thinks daughters are the equivalent of NBA championships because we each have 6 of those.
Oh, my God.
Sincerely, M. Jordan.
God, that is brilliant. El Mondello guy didn't write that, did he?
He did.
Oh, he did write it.
Yeah,
Then
he
that's
did.
good. He's on a roll.
Yeah, he's hot.
What was the one yesterday that was so good?
Well, it was the
That
one.
was it.
It was the one about calling himself Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that is very good. I'm trying to scramble for time here. See if I can get it.
El Mondello guy. We were talking about casinos yesterday. He's on a
Here it
heater
is.
right now.
Here
He's
it is.
rolling some good dice.
To that end, this is from one of us Hollywood actor guy yesterday at the end of the show. He sent this to me. D. Marley guy and T. Kukoc guy can write as many Dr. Dan letters as they like. El Mondello and I will still be there to meet them at the rim. We will meet them at the rim. How perfect is that?
Along those lines,
It's time
from
for
what Mondello guy wrote yesterday.
Inbox.
Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day.
Dear Dr. Dan, what gives? I thought this was Dr. Dan's inbox, not El Mondello guy's bully pulpit. I get that he is talented and he probably has the shiniest participation trophy in the KFAN family, but to compare himself to M. Jordan, that's a bit of a stretch. No offense to D. Cole, but do you think M. Jordan would be satisfied being the head writer for the fourth most successful show in the KFAN lineup?
Wow.
Me neither. So what if it took us multiple times to gain entry into the secret society that is Dr. Dan's inbox? We might get a little emotional when we finally make it, and who knows? Maybe show a little gratitude to Jay Gard for giving us our 15 seconds of fame. Didn't think we were going to be reminded the only reason some of us made it was because the GOAT took a day off. I guess we Moss types can only hope our emails get read on the same airwaves as the self-anointed Jay Rice of this segment, K. the Jet Smith guy.
That's another good one. You were right. You did not oversell
I
them.
know, and I got more.
You did not oversell them. Do we have time for any more?
We've got time.
Yeah,
What else do we have?
We got no guests the rest of the way.
Where did I want to go?
I don't think.
Well, here we go. That's a really topical one. I got to start the music again.
It's time for Dr.
Some of these don't even need a response. They just deserve to be read.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, sometimes the best response is no response.
Dear Dr. Dan, can you help me out? I was trying to teach someone a lesson, and it seems to be backfiring. A company making some questionable financial decisions booked me to make some appearances. I thought I would use some backwoods justice like we do here in the country, but now my ethics are being questioned, and someone thinks I need to give back money that I used on a new tractor. Any ideas? Sincerely, B. Favre.
Surprised you read that one, because it's kind of a shot at him. Usually the tractor stuff.
His name will be cleared in the top 5 at 5.
I have no doubt about that.
If we ever get to it.
Yeah. Oh, is that it?
Do you have any advice for Favre?
No, that one I think just sits on its own. It's very good. It's a callback to yesterday and earlier in the show, and apparently it's a look ahead.
Foreshadowing.
To your effort to somehow sanitize him of any responsibility for at some point going, no, God, so they paid me $1 million to do a commercial in Mississippi? Not nationally?
Brett
That
Favre.
seems a little bit much, but okay, sure. I'll do it.
Speaking of a callback.
It's time for Dr. Dan's Inbox.
Oh, we get letters. We get your letters every day.
Dear Dr. Dan, we've come to the foremost expert in public relations for help. As you know, we've been getting hammered for our work in these uncertain times, ensuring our most precious asset, our revenue stream, our customers, are safe. We are now realizing that charging $39 for an empty seat next to you wasn't presented to the public as well as it could have been. Anyway, do you have any recommendations for that, as well as any recommendations for marketing for our new 99-cent upgrade for face masks that double as barf bags? Thanks, F Airlines.
Is he still the CEO, by the way?
The guy that decided this?
Yeah, the guy who...
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything that he's been let go.
Well, again, it's preposterous statement tournament material, is it not? Even in the course of their Sirwanga-ing, to not even own up to it, to say, well, it really wasn't about, we were just doing this as a courtesy. We weren't trying to make any money. I mean, how much more insulting can you get to people's intelligence? Now, you could say, well, they're not going to get wealthy off a $40 a shot, but if it is about what he said it was about, which was greater peace of mind, why not just give everybody that opportunity? And again, some flights are going to be too crowded for that, I would assume. But within the realm of that objective, that's what you try to do. If indeed you really are about trying to give people greater peace of mind. Because is he saying that people would turn down that empty seat between them. You know, that there's some people who really don't care. Every person's going to accept that if they have that opportunity.
They
right?
want that in normal times.
Exactly it.
Let alone social distance time. Is there any better thrill than when you sit down in your seat?
No.
They say that the gate is closed or the door is closed, cabin door is closed, and there's nobody next to you.
It's the best thing ever.
It's the greatest.
Is what it is.
It makes you want to fly all over again.
Yeah.
So
well,
we want the middle seat generally.
There's an old Wilkie Quad story I'll review sometime later, either in today's show or tomorrow, related to a very similar emotion, that feeling that you're not going to have to share anything in your room or share a room, and then at the last second, because it happens sometimes on planes where the door's almost closed, they go, wait a minute, 2 more passengers, they almost missed the connection, but we're going to get them in here, and suddenly you got Chumbalone guy sitting next to you, sneezing on you the entire trip.
The Rubes are on an impressive streak for Dr. Dan's Inbox. I seem to say that every single week, but you all just keep delivering. So if you want to be part of the fun, JG@KFAN.com each and every Thursday. And right now, one of us Hollywood actor guy and Larry Mondello guy, they're basically like the Celtics and Lakers in the 80s. They're just alternating haymakers, and each of them wins every other week. Just tremendous stuff by the both of them and everybody else as well. So thank you for submitting your entries to JG@KFAN.com for Dr. Dan's Inbox. Finally tonight on the Best of Podcast, a horrible story out of Georgia.
We like to say on this program, we follow the story, and I guess there's always the possibility that there's going to be some new evidence that might change the conclusion that a number of people have come to. And I'm in the camp that certainly believes that a man is dead needlessly because he was murdered. And some of you by now may have seen the video. It is out of Alabama. It is, certainly disturbing. And I would say infuriating as well. It involves a 25-year-old Georgia man named Ahmaud, and I may be mispronouncing that name, first name, Arbery. And Arbery, well, let's give you a little background on what led to what should be a case of murder, and at this point is not being pursued or has not been treated as a murder case. A former police officer named Gregory McMichael says he saw Arbery, quote, hauling ass, end quote, down his street. By the way, I guess we need to talk about definitions. The video I saw looked to me as if, as a number of people suggest he was doing, that he was jogging down the street. Didn't look to me in the part I saw that he was. I think of hauling ass, I think you're in a straight sprint. It doesn't appear to me to be a sprint. It appears to me to be more of a jog, a good pace, but more of a jog for an individual who apparently did that often in that particular neighborhood. Nevertheless, McMichael then assumes that the black man who's doing the running is a burglar who had recently been targeting neighborhood homes. So, McMichael, his son, and a third man, armed with a handgun and a shotgun, get into 2 cars, and they chase Arbery down the street. The older McMichael tells police he shouted at Arbery to stop. Arbery did not stop. When the group catches up with him, there is then a confrontation. In the video, and by the way, has it been, one thing I haven't had established is who took it? Who took the video? Has that yet been ascertained? In the video, Arbery first goes around the vehicle. In fact, at first, the video I saw, it looks as if they've almost kind of set up a roadblock And by the way, in the police report, that's not the way McMichael put it, but that's effectively what is shown in the video. And it looks like he just tries to avoid the roadblock and continues to run. In the video, he goes around the vehicle. He then confronts one of the men. We hear a shot. The video shows Arbery grappling with another man. He's moving away. Then we hear the sound of two more shots, and then Arbery falls to the ground. Dead. Law enforcement authorities investigated and came to the conclusion that there's nothing to see here. Yes, an individual is dead, but those who chased him at some later point through this confrontation feared for their own lives and did what legally in that state they have a right to do. This is Georgia, as I said. It's a story that's gained a lot of traction nationally because a lot of people are doing the same thing I have in responding to it and trying to read about it. Our mouths are just hanging open, incredulous to the notion that there was any excuse for what the posse did under any set of circumstances. I can give you the laws if you'd like on the books. A private person may arrest an offender if the offense is committed in his presence or within his immediate knowledge. The offense is a felony and the offender is escaping or attempting to escape. A private person may arrest him upon reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion. They did not have reasonable or probable grounds of suspicion. They had not seen the crime committed. And you know what the crime was in this case? The crime was a quote-unquote black man gets spotted at a home construction site in the neighborhood, looking through it. In fact, when the 911 call comes in, that's what's described, and the dispatcher says, well, are they not supposed to be there? What are they doing? That's the extent. And by the way, we still to this moment don't even know that Arbery was the person there doing even that. But that's the extent of the alleged felony that was going on. They didn't see it. They didn't have the immediate knowledge that might open the door to, well, by law in Georgia, they can try to make a citizen's arrest. Now, reading one version of this is in the Righty publication. It'll come to me in a minute. It's one of them. One of many people who've written about this. A publication known for law and order, but has come to the conclusion that this is just a case of three individuals getting away with stone-cold murder. That Arbery had a record of some in his past. Shooters couldn't have known it. Doesn't matter. Whether you have a record at all has no impact on whether you should be in a position where you lose your life stupidly and needlessly because of these goons. Some have also suggested social media. Arbery was wrong in confronting the men. To which this individual says, why? Arbery is an unarmed man, and by the way, that's been confirmed by everybody, had zero reason to take orders from three loud and menacing strangers. Judging from the video, he's the one who acted in self-defense. Had he been armed, he would have had far more justification to shoot than the McMichaels did. On no level does this hold up that I can see. Now, again, we say follow the story. Could more things be detailed? I guess it's possible. But I'll say, play this out into the worst case scenario. Let's say they had evidence. Let's say they saw him take something from that house site. Their responsibility should still be, if they're gonna try to confront it all, to call the cops, and try to give the cops information on where they see the individual going. That's the extent of what they should be doing. But I'm giving you a hypothetical that didn't even apply to this particular case. It's horrific to watch. Have you seen it?
Yes.
It's just,
yeah.
What are we talking about? And there is now, let me get another wonk's view of the situation. The McMichael's other possible argument is that the unspecified video footage from unspecified previous break-ins constitutes sufficient immediate knowledge that a crime had been committed days or weeks ago, and that alleged older crime provided the McMichaels with a reasonable and probable grounds of suspicion they were pursuing a fleeing felon. Justifying armed pursuit on that basis would represent a remarkable application and extension of the law. It would empower vigilantism. Vigilantism. That's basically it. It would empower citizens to independently investigate crimes and seek to arrest suspects on their own authority. McMichael didn't merely report that Arbery ran by so the police could investigate. He didn't even simply follow him at a safe distance, as we said earlier, to keep him in sight. He moved aggressively to arrest him and did so based on mainly his own subjective interpretation of surveillance videos of alleged previous incidents. He also mentions it is worth remembering that the long and evil history of American lynchings features countless examples of young black men hunted and killed by white gangs who claim their victims had committed crimes. While we don't yet know the full details about the McMichael's motives, their actions speak loudly enough. When white men grab guns and mount up to pursue and seize an unarmed black man in the street, they stand in the shoes of lynch mobs past. We'll learn much more about this case before it's over, and perhaps we'll learn of exculpatory evidence, not yet available public record. But, in fact, there's now a third district attorney in the case. Some of the investigation has been slowed because people have had to sort of recuse themselves because they're either all related to these people,
Yeah.
or they worked with them so much, because one of these guys was an ex-cop, as we said, that they can't find somebody who's objective enough to actually do an independent investigation. Now I think there's some grand jury consideration going on. It's awful. It's the worst. And there is no, on the basis of what we know now. And by the way, I purposefully in this case read from a couple Law and Order righties to make the point that, I'm not reading from, if you want to be the cynic and think it should matter in a case like this, and it really shouldn't, that I'm reading out of, the pages of MSNBC online or something. I'm not. These are individuals who are pretty much Law and Order saying Law and Order was subverted in an obscene fashion in this case. Inexcusable fashion. And the fact that these three jackass is too strong a term for it, actually, or not a strong enough term for it. Scumbags are sitting there at least at this point, free and presumably absolved, at least until now, is tragic. It is beyond sad. And the assumption is, also read from one law enforcement person to amplify on several of the points we've made here. Again, about a burglary, and in this case, a burglary that they don't even know what burglary this is and what it's connected to. They don't even know if this person is involved in it. And you go back, as I said, to the 911 call, it's about somebody looking through a house construction project, which, by the way, a lot of people do. Even though probably legally you shouldn't, people get curious. Say, I got to look through that thing. One of the writers of one of these pieces said, just did that the other day. The taking of someone's life for the alleged crime of burglary is never acceptable. This is a cop. The father and son that went after him and eventually shot and killed him claimed he was burglarizing homes. Even if he was a burglar, unless he was armed, then shooting him is not legal or justified. Unless Georgia law is different than Minnesota, if you have a permit to carry a firearm, you cannot be the aggressor. You must retreat if there is not a threat to you or someone else, then follow at a safe distance, be a good witness. The media keeps referring to the victim as a jogger. If he was not out jogging, that'll be eventually revealed. If he was a burglar and trying to escape the area, that'll be revealed. There are Ring door cameras everywhere. I expect to see another angle of this. If he was not out jogging and, in fact, a suspected burglar, it still does not justify shooting and killing him unless he was armed and a threat. And he wasn't armed. And if he became a threat, it's because of what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They upped the ante. They turned it into a threat, which tells me they probably wanted it to be a threat because they were looking for an excuse. There was nothing about their behavior that was about law and order on that occasion. So I'm hoping somewhere along the line we can get somebody who will make sure that in this case justice is indeed served.
We end the Best Of podcast on a tough note. If you'd like to maybe get in a little bit better mood after that horrible story out of Georgia, hit the entire show podcast on this very same channel. Thanks for checking us out on Bumper to Bumper. Kevin Seifert among the guests on Friday's program. Hope you're all doing well at home. Hope we see each other soon, and thanks again for listening to The Fan.